Hey, everybody. Welcome into Sports Map. I am Josh Jordan. I am the host of Moneyline on Sundays and the editor of Sports Map. And I am joined by AJ Hoffman, host of The Blitz on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. And guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so right now. All right, AJ, more news broke this week that Deshaun, he still wants to be traded. In contrast, reports last week were that the Texans, they weren't entertaining any offers for Deshaun. Now, there's a lot of fans and media that believe that Deshaun really has no leverage, but I mean, couldn't Deshaun technically use some kind of phantom injury as a means to pressure the team into trading him?
I guess he could. I mean, eventually you have to, at some point, you have to take into account that the team doctors will look at him. One thing you don't want in the NFL is a reputation as a malingerer. I mean, Deshaun is trying to get out of this thing with his reputation as intact as possible. Doing something like that could be looked at negatively by 31 other NFL teams. There's not one team in the NFL that wants a guy who's willing to do that to get his way. So I think that's maybe a last-ditch, worst-case scenario thing that he could try, but I would say that he definitely doesn't want to do that.
Okay, that's fair. If the Texans do dig in with Deshaun, would that combined with the reputation the team already has at this point, could it prevent top-level draft picks from wanting to play here? You know, kind of like, Eli Manning saying, don't draft me. I'm not going to play there. John Elway. We've seen this type of thing before. If they got a great haul for Deshaun and had a top pick, could something like that happen?
Seems unlikely. I mean, in this day and age, most guys are looking for a path to play, and they want to be drafted as highly as they can be because they want to make as much money as they can. Those guys who were number one overall picks have a little more leverage than a guy that would be. I mean, unless somehow Trevor Lawrence was available where the Texans picked, which seems pretty unlikely. They have more leverage than this phantom guy we're talking about would have. I think most guys want to prove themselves. They want to get out there, and you assume the Texans would probably take a quarterback with that pick, and they'd say, you know what, this is a blank slate. This is a chance for me to go out and prove that I'm good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Because otherwise, you know, who knows where the next team down the line that's going to pick you is. And again, it goes kind of back to that other thing, what your character is. Like, do guys want to deal with guys who are willing to say, well, I'm not playing for this team? It's just really a bad look overall for that player. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it seems unlikely.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. But, what about free agency, the same type of reputation stuff with the Texans? Could it be the case where the Texans have to overpay players to incentivize them into taking a chance on Houston?
Almost certainly, because that's like, ask the Lions, ask the Browns, ask the Raiders. If you want big-time free agents, that's the only way to get them when you're a loser franchise, which the Texans look like they're headed down that path of being a habitual loser franchise. So yes, that is going to leak over, because there are a lot of people who are looking at this place as like, I've got no chance to win here. The upper management is a bunch of boneheads. The head coach is a nobody. If Deshaun's not here, what's the point? What are we even doing? So there are a lot of reasons not to check the Houston box. So the one reason that the Texans can control is they can money whip you. And if they are willing to offer above market value, which they have been willing to pay above market value for their own guys, we haven't really seen them reach outside of their own franchise and do that yet. But that's something that, yeah, I'm guessing they will have to do and continue to do internally as well if they want to keep any talent around.
Yeah, and finally, I keep hearing, people bring this up, that if, they let Deshaun out and they agree to trade him because he demands a trade or requests a trade, there'll be a line of other guys on the Texans that they're going to put their hand up and be like, hey, I want out too. I want out too. Is that really realistic?
No, because a lot of those guys don't. I mean, when you talk about Deshaun Watson, you're talking about a franchise quarterback. Outside of Laramie Tunsil, there's really nobody on this roster with actual value to any team other than the Texans. So, like, if you were to say, we'll trade, Zach Cunningham, like, there's nothing in return for that guy. There's not a market for guys like that. There's a market for Deshaun. There are a lot of teams who realize, man, we're a Deshaun Watson away from being a Super Bowl contender. The Colts the Bears. There's a ton of teams that feel like if we just had this guy instead of the guy we have now, boy, we're right there. No one says, oh, if I had a Bradley Roby, we'd be right there. It's just that there's not a Texan on the roster outside of Watson and Tunsil that really have any pull at this point. I mean, and this is no knock to like a J.J. Watt, who's still a good player at this point in his career, but he's an expiring contract. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and he's not going to pull a big haul anyway. But it also, I mean, I don't think the Texans would be too sad about trading him anyway. I think if they could find even a decent deal, they'd like to trade him because they're in a rebuild. Really, the only two guys that have any value and would be difficult to move for salary cap purposes, but would be able to bring something back in return are Watson and Tunsil. So I don't think there's a lot of guys on this roster with much leverage, to be honest.